When Zeus banished the evil titan Typhon to an infinite abyss of torture and suffering, he thought that would be the end of it. But Typhon has escaped, stripping the gods who imprisoned him of their powers and wreaking havoc on their home, the Golden Isle. And so it falls to Fenyx, a lowly Greek soldier, to save them. Fenyx is a normal person, suddenly thrust into an outrageous world of gods and monsters. This grounds things nicely and makes for an enjoyable and extreme fish-out-of-water story. Immortals tells a big story with big stakes, but it's no Greek tragedy. It's a comedy, taking well-worn elements of Greek mythology and giving them a light-hearted, self-aware spin. The dialogue pokes fun at the legends, repaints familiar characters in amusing ways, and throws in a bunch of pop culture references. It's charming and often funny, if occasionally a little grating. Prometheus narrates as you play, with a goofy Zeus rudely butting in to mock his storytelling ability or demand that he make things more exciting. This frequently results in things changing around Fenyx, like a cyclops suddenly doubling in size.
Fenyx carefully approached the vault guarded by boars. Boars not unlike the one that mauled Adonis to death.
You sure Adonis wasn't bored to death listening to one of your stories?
The mythical Golden Isle is a vivid, beautifully realised setting, with each region reflecting the god who lives there. Love goddess Aphrodite's corner of the island, the Valley of Eternal Spring, is an idyllic paradise of sparkling rivers, gleaming temples, frolicking animals, and colourful flora. And at the heart of the island is the Gates of Tartaros, a lava-spewing volcanic fissure, where, once you've rescued all 4 gods, you'll confront Typhon for a final showdown. This is one of Ubisoft's prettiest open worlds, and a nice alternative to the subdued realism of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's bright and striking like a Saturday morning cartoon, and the swaying grass and petals blowing in the wind have a real Studio Ghibli feel. Climb to the top of one of the many colossal statues on the island and the sense of scale is impressive. The breezy art style is a perfect fit for the game's light-hearted tone, and there's something really inviting about the world. You just want to dive in and explore every inch of it. There are a few ways to get around the Golden Isle, all governed by a stamina system. You can climb on pretty much any surface for as long as your stamina meter holds out. If it gets dangerously low, drinking a potion will help you keep going for a little while longer. You can creep up on animals and tame them, turning them into mounts. They have their own stamina meter, which varies in size from beast to beast. And when you discover the wings of Icarus early in the game, you can glide for long distances, again for as long as you have stamina left. But my biggest problem with Immortals is that none of these modes of navigation feel particularly good. The jumping is some of the worst I've experienced in a third-person game. It's frustratingly floaty and imprecise, making leaping between small platforms a chore. Gliding with the wings doesn't feel as graceful and smooth as it should, and when you gallop on a mount, the screen is smeared with way too much motion blur and you feel like you have to fight with the controls to take a turn. It just never felt nice in my hands, even with a gamepad. Immortals is at its best when you're pursuing the story, getting tangled up in the neuroses of the fallen gods. It's a nice touch that almost every deity and mythical figure you meet is troubled, eccentric, or just plain weird. This is a very human pantheon of gods, and the writers really have fun with them.
So the warrior that just appeared wasn't really Achilles?
Goodness, no! The true Achilles is far more dashing.
Oh, you're telling me.
I was actually surprised by how much of a puzzle game Immortals is. Sprinkled across the map are self-contained challenges called Vaults of Tartarus, which appear as volcanic openings in the ground and contain elaborate physics and environmental puzzles. Some of them are brilliantly designed, and some are forgettable, but they hit more than they miss. Several important story moments also involve puzzles, including big, intricate dungeons at the end of each god's quest chain. You'll do a fair amount of fighting too. Combat in Immortals is dramatic and fast-paced, mixing melee weapons and bows. Fenyx can perform slow, heavy attacks with an axe, fast attacks with a sword, and switch instantly to a bow when required to pepper the enemy with arrows. Dodge or block just as an enemy attacks, and time will slow, leaving them vulnerable. You can also unlock a bunch of special abilities, including pounding enemies with a giant hammer. It's enjoyable enough and simple to get to grips with, if ultimately pretty uninteresting. I rarely look forward to combat, much preferring the puzzles. If a lot of what you've heard here sounds familiar, you've probably played The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Immortals is heavily inspired by Nintendo's critically acclaimed Switch game, with an emphasis on heavily. But considering Breath of the Wild will almost certainly never be released on PC, that's probably a good thing. The puzzles in Immortals aren't as smart, the art isn't as refined, and the world isn't as beguiling, but it's still a strong attempt at making a game in the same vein, and probably the closest thing we have to Zelda on PC at the moment. Immortals is easy to like. It has an infectious energy, a great sense of humour, and a world that is full of colour and life. I just wish the mechanical stuff underpinning everything was more fine-tuned. The unsatisfying, weightless character movement is a real letdown because there's no getting away from it. This is a game where you're constantly running, flying, gliding, climbing and riding on horseback. But its unique take on Greek mythology, memorable characters and fun, lively quests do their best to make up for it, even if it doesn't always pull it off.